Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today the Houston Texans beat the Indianapolis Colts 23-20 at home. Great win for the Texans. I was at the game today, my first Texans game since 2018. I have been to a couple preseason games the last couple years. Was at the Giants preseason game just back in August, and last year against Miami. But, I mean, just counting regular season, as I think everybody probably does, it's my first real Texans game since 2018 against the Miami Dolphins, which was a Thursday night football blowout. Also, this is the first Texans game I've ever been to where it's a close game. First Texans game I ever went to was against the Browns in 2017. Texans blew out Cleveland. Second game I went to was that same season against Pittsburgh, which was a Christmas Day game. And I will say the Texans did get their butts kicked that game, but it was still a really fun experience, just being the fact that, it was Christmas and getting to be at a football game on Christmas. And DeAndre Hopkins did have an amazing touchdown catch, but that was also another blowout. And then obviously I already talked about the Miami Thursday Night Football was another blowout. So this is the first, close game I've ever been to as a Texans fan. Even the preseason games have been blowouts. I mean, like, the Giants preseason game, we blew out New York. The Miami Dolphins preseason game last year, we got blown out by Miami. So I've never, even preseason included, never been to a close football game just for the Texans. And so this was just a cool experience. I will say it was stressful. It was very stressful and very frustrating at times. But at the same time, I am excited. I got to watch a good game, which is, even though I've been to a total of six or seven total preseason and regular season games, I've never seen a close game. So, yeah, love to see it. Texans win the game 23-20. We're going to go over the scoring summary, then I'll go into some stats. Kaimi Fairbairn started off the game 3-0. I didn't see much of this drive. We were, trying to get into our seats as this drive was going on, but I did get to see the Texans cap off that drive with the field goal. It was 3-0. Then the Colts have a little bit of a drive. Mainly, they were able to get into the scoring position off of a good kickoff return, and only got 12 yards. Didn't need much for a Matt Gay 46-yard kick to tie the game up at 3. Then Anthony Richardson throws a 69-yard touchdown bomb to Josh Downs. At the same time, it was frustrating. It wasn't surprising. Richardson did this a whole lot against the Texans in Week 1. And even though Richardson can struggle at times and have trouble with accuracy, have trouble with not turning the football over, and also have trouble just making good football plays, he still has a cannon, and he can still use that. So, I knew he was capable of that. I've seen him do this against the Texans defense, so it was frustrating that happened, but not surprising. And when something's not surprising, it's less frustrating. 10-3 Colts after that. Second quarter was a great quarter for the Texans, though. Joe Mixon, 14-yard touchdown run to make it 10-10. And then we saw C.J. Stroud, 7-yard touchdown pass to Tank Dell, 17-10 at halftime. To me, in the first half, I remember, I was talking to some fans, and I'm like, we're playing good football. I'm like, yeah, we're playing good football. They're playing good football. They're doing a good job, but they should be up by more than 7 points. They should be up by way more than 7 points. Now, they did build it to a double-digit lead to start off the third quarter with a 35-yard field goal for Kaimi Fairbairn, and that made it 20-10. But then Colts hit you right back with a 37-yard field goal of their own for Matt Gay with 2 minutes left in the third. It's 20-13. Then Kaimi Fairbairn, 34-yard field goal, 23-13. And then Jonathan Taylor, with 8 minutes left, has a 1-yard touchdown run, 23-20. On a fourth down, it was a third or fourth down, Richardson throws an absolute bomb to Josh Downs again, crushing the Texans. It was a good throw, but it was more of a great catch by Josh Downs. And they ruled that he was down at the 1. Here comes the run game. Texans stop him Jonathan Taylor one time, then the next Jonathan Taylor gets in. Look, you can't be frustrated at that. I mean, you can be frustrated that they gave up a big throw to Josh Downs like that, but not really frustrated the fact that they gave up a 1-yard touchdown. I think the Colts are probably one of the hardest teams to stop at the 1-yard line in 4-down territory. When not only do they have an amazing running back like Jonathan Taylor, but then you also have a good running quarterback like Anthony Richardson. So it's two options, and you have no idea where they're going to go with it. I was surprised that the Texans stopped them once, yet alone having to stop them another 3 times. So great job by the Texans there stopping them once. I think the Colts were down to score a touchdown on the 1-yard line. All right, game leaders, Anthony Richardson, 10 for 32, 175 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception. He had almost 100 of that off of 1 throw to Josh Downs. C.J. Stroud, 25 for 37, 285 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Stroud was good, but there were a lot of big misses for Stroud. I mean, there were some incompletions that he had that were, could have been big plays for Stroud that Stroud should be hitting. But there were also some plays where Stroud, is showing, is throwing short passes to tight ends or running backs when he has. There were a couple of plays like that where he'd have Diggs or Dell wide open and throw it to one of his tight ends or throw it to one of his running backs. There was a big play that Stroud had Diggs wide open and very well, even though the Texans were 70 yards, 60 yards away from a touchdown, Diggs probably would have gone all the way. But then Stroud instead throws a 4-yard pass to, as I call, Farmer Gronk, Cade Stover. So that is a frustrating play from C.J. Stroud right there. So he had a good day, but I thought there were some mistakes from Stroud, but he did enough for the Texans to win this game. Jonathan Taylor, 20 carries, 105 rushing yards with 1 touchdown. Joe Mixon wasn't as good as Jonathan Taylor, but he was still great. 25 carries, 102 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Josh Downs, 4 receptions for 109 receiving yards with a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 5 receptions, 81 receiving yards. He did get hurt in this game. Hopefully Diggs is okay. That's the last thing the Texans need. Injury bug is already crazy. You lose Jarrett Patterson. You also lose Shaq Mason. Then Diggs gets hurt. He gets hurt. This is just terrible with the injury bug right now for this Texans team. It's terrible. All right, let's go over some other stats from this game. Joe Mixon, outside of his carries, there was not a lot of running outside of that. Stroud had 1 carry that was negative 10 yards. Stephon Diggs had 1 carry that was negative 4 yards. Damian Pierce and DeRay Ngabalawe both had a carry each. Both had 4 rushing yards. For the Colts, Richardson ran for 45 yards. Josh Downs ran for 13 yards. And that was really it for rushing for both teams. That was it. Outside Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz had one of his best games this season. 4 receptions, 52 receiving yards. That's not one of his most targeted games of the season, but that's definitely one of his highest receiving yards of the season in a game. Tank Dell had 4 receptions for 35 receiving yards and a touchdown. Joe Mixon had 4 receptions for 32 receiving yards. John Mechie had 3 receptions for 29 receiving yards. Now, one of those was a big 28-yard pass by C.J. Stroud. Big play for C.J. Stroud and John Mechie. Outside of that, he had 2 receptions for 1 receiving yard. Xavier Hutchinson, I thought, was really big in this game. He had a 19-yard receiving yard, his exact number, which was big. And then there was also a 3rd down and short. Stroud threw to Xavier Hutchinson. He drew the pass interference, so thought Hutchinson did a good job. And if the pass interference wasn't called, Texans would have had to give the Colts back with it would have been 3 minutes and 50 seconds for the Colts to get the football back and to try to tie it with a field goal. I know the Colts were not able to do that. Having the football with a minute left, but who knows what it would have been with timeouts and 3 minutes instead of 1. So Hutchinson was big in this game. Stroud did lose a fumble in this game. It was recovered by Deo Udu Yingbu. I hope I said his name right. Richardson fumbled twice. One of them, he recovered his fumble. The other, he lost and was recovered by Will Anderson. Defensive stats, Will Anderson, 7 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Eric Murray, 7 tackles. Neville Hewitt, 6 tackles. 6 tackles for loss. The Texans, Daniel Hunter had 2. He had 2 sacks. 1 tackle for loss for Will Anderson, already mentioned. Jalen Petrie had 1. Tim Settle Jr. had 1. 1 for Foley Fotukasi, and that was it. Colts had 2 sacks, and this is upsetting. 11 tackles for loss. Interceptions. Jalen Petrie had an interception that was returned for 10 yards. So, like I said, good win, but the Texans didn't play their best football in this football game, and they continue to make a problem that has been a problem all year worse with the injury bug. 2 O-linemen getting hurt, and Stephon Diggs, who was the wide receiver 2 going into the year, then made the wide receiver 1 after Collins going down, and now what the hell do you do if Diggs is going to miss some time? That means you have to rely on Dell even more, and guys like Hutchinson, Robert Woods, and John Mechie, who are good, have to become way better. So this is an unfortunate position for this Texans team at the wide receiver position and the entire team with the injuries right now. I got to say, this was a big win for the Texans. I think the Texans a loss would have really hurt them today, because a loss would have put both of these two teams at 5-3, which would have meant the Colts would have taken the tiebreaker. And that means if both these two teams finished with the same record, the Texans would not win this division, and that would go to the Colts. I know that didn't really matter for the Texans last year with the Jaguars. The Jaguars won the tiebreaker. The Texans were still able to get a better record. But that was stressful last season, and honestly, I don't see the Colts having a big collapse like the Jaguars had last year, at the end of the year this year, if that's the case. So I think the Colts are going to continue to be a good football team, but now the Texans definitely have the edge, being at 6-2, being 2 games, about two and a half games up from the Colts, and also the fact that you have the tiebreaker now, which is something you would not have if you lost this game. It's going to get tough, though. Upcoming. You have the Jets. I know the Jets have been struggling lately, but let's be honest. The Jets still have a good defense. They have a really good pass defense, an even better pass defense at home. Stroud really struggled against them last year. Now, I think the upside for this game for the Texans is the Jets' defense is terrible. Sorry, not the Jets' defense. The Jets' run defense is terrible, and that's where you need Joe Mixon to step up yet again. So I think if the Texans are going to win the football game on Thursday night against the New York Jets on Halloween, it's going to be because of Joe Mixon. Stroud might make some better plays. I'm not expecting a game for Stroud last year like he did in New York, or a game like last week in Green Bay. But I don't see Stroud doing a lot of big things against that New York defense. I think the main contributor for the Texans on Thursday will be number 28, Joe Mixon. And I think that's the only way the Texans will win the football game on Thursday. So I think Thursday will be a great football game, though. I'm excited. And that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out. Go Texans.